This week in post, taking a deeper look at some of the blending options in ON1 Effects. Hi everybody, I'm Scott Davenport. Welcome to In Post. And this week it's kind of like a Q&A episode, but it's one big question. First off, got to give a lot of credit to Bruce Roberts. He asked a great question about the eyedropper and the blending options and effects and how they affect with color. He did some interesting experiments. I played around with it as well, and I thought this would be really cool to show to everybody and show the differences in the blending options between choosing a particular color versus choosing color ranges, and when does it make sense for, given a certain photo, to look at these blending options versus doing some type of masking for a particular effect. That may sound a little bit weird, but watch the rest of the video. Hopefully it'll start to make a lot more sense, and it will give you a few more tools and options in your post-processing. I'm going to start with this basic color wheel to explain what's going on here. And let me first add a filter to this. I'm going to add a very obvious one, a texturizer, and I'm going to crank this up to 100%. So we're going to really see this texture on this color wheel. Now the area we're going to be spending most of our time is in these blending options that are available in every filter. And so you have blending mode and also apply to and this little eyedropper. And this is the thing we're talking about. This selects a color from the image to say, I only want to apply the effect to this color. And you can adjust the range slider to say, I want more of that color or less of that color. Now to start with, the range is at 0. So one would think, grab this eyedropper and I pick red. I should see the texture disappear from red, from everything but red. And that doesn't happen. There's still a bunch here in the orange. I mean, this is certainly, orange has a red tone to it. But with range all the way down to 0, you would think that orange would disappear. Now, of course, if I start creeping this up, we're going to see more and more of that texture start to creep in, even into the yellows over here. Now, it seems different colors behave differently. If I were to select green, I get plenty of green. The yellow looks pretty clean, not too bad. If I'm going to pick yellow, I start to see things in orange, yellow, and green, all of which the range being at 0. A little counterintuitive. So when you've got a hard color boundary like we have with this color wheel, I'll apply this back to all, the best approach is going to be to use a masking tool to take care of removing the effect from something and using this perfect brush. So if I do that and I go through and I paint all through the orange section, for example, great, the texture is gone from that, and I could repeat that for yellow. I get a nice clean edge because I'm using the perfect brush, and so on down the line. Of course, the easiest thing to do would be to paint it away from red, invert the mask, and then I'd only have the impact happening on the color that I want. So then why are these apply to options here and this eyedropper? Well, this is where it depends on the image. So let me move over to a different image and I'll use a different filter to show how these things can be useful in your post-processing flow. So here we have a scene that's a little more real world, right? A lot of different things going on and more gradual color changes. The greens and yellows going in through here, yellows and oranges of the sand, whites, blues, lots of stuff going on. So let's add something that I would normally add to a photo like this, dynamic contrast. So we'll add in dynamic contrast. And as I said, every filter has these blending options. So let's kind of pump up the contrast effect a little higher than normal so we can see that there is impact here. Right? This is really garish, but this will help illustrate where these blending modes come in to play. So let me open these blending modes here. And let's say I'm really more interested in applying things to just the foreground, like the sand. So I could take this and I could pick on the sand. Let's see what happens. All right, so now I have this contrast happening in some of the sand colors. You saw the ocean get very smooth right away. The clouds here, the greens and things of the rocks, some contrast, some not. And I can start to control that with the range. If I pull the range down really far, you're going to see this even soften more. If I crank up the range very far, you start to see some of the rocks here. But watch over here, watch the ocean as I play with this slider. Right? There's really nothing happening there. Right now, if I go back to apply to all, that gets very crunchy. If I return that to what I do, the dropper on the sand, I've got nice soft ocean, soft sky, and I can fine tune the range to bring in some of the rocks, to bring in a little bit of the trees, because I'm kind of clicking on an orangey yellow. We start to get to yellowy green, and without any masking at all, I'm able to start tailoring this where I'm still getting contrast in the rock that's in the middle of the ocean, but all this foam around here is nice and soft and smooth. So this is where your apply to choices here, all these different things, reds or green, you're going to see the image change as I go through. Or this eyedropper on just spots in your image, and then playing with that slider to bring contrast or texture or color or whatever filter you're using. So that's the power of apply to and the eyedropper. So the tip of the week, if you've got an area of your photo that has very crisp, well-defined color, use your masking brushes, like the perfect brush, to either accentuate or downplay, remove or add an effect to that area. If your image has a certain color you're trying to work with that permeates throughout the image or has lots of different tones, look at the blending modes and use those pull downs for applying to a certain color range and playing with that range slider. Between those two things, there's you can just about get any effect that you're looking for. That's it for this week in post. Thanks very much for joining me. If you got questions, please send them in. Love hearing from you. If you like the show, let me know. +1s, likes, shares on social media. All of those little affirmations really do give me the energy to come back and do another show and put another video together. And I really appreciate that level of support. Until next time, my name is Scott Davenport. Happy shooting.